Okay, we just came from the second practice. Here's what I'm going to do now, class. We're going to move down to a blank screen, and I'm going to write 3 standard form quadratics, and your job is to try to factor each of these. If you can factor each of these successfully, you're good to go. If you can get most of the way through them and just need a little bit of help, then you're at least making progress. Let's write these down. So I'm going to write, our first one is going to be y is equal to 2x squared plus 4x minus 6. There's our first one. Our second one is going to be y equals negative x squared minus 2x plus 8. And our third one is going to be y is equal to negative 3x squared minus 6 plus 9. So I'm going to have you right now pause the video, try to work on these, and then when you think you've got an answer, start the video up. If you want to do one at a time, that's fine, or do all 3, that's fine too. Pause the video, look at my work, check your work, and then go on and do the next one. So pause the video now. Okay, I'm assuming you have attempted the equations. Let's go ahead and work these out. I'm not going to color code them anymore. We're going to go right down the line, step by step. So, step number 1 for question number 1. Is a negative? No, it is not. Do not need to factor out a negative. Is there a common factor between the terms 2, 4, and 6? Yes, there is. We have a GCF equal to 2. That means for this step, we're going to factor out. Sorry, I'm not going to circle that. This step, we're going to factor out the 2. So y equals 2 times x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now take a look, class. If I recombine these numbers, I go right back to the original. 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times 2x is 4x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. We factored out the 2. Next step, write your a, b, and c terms. Now look at the a, b, and c. They are now from the quadratic that's in parentheses. Therefore, a is 1, b equals 2, and c equals negative 3. Next step is use our I to find how to split the b term. On the top, we're writing down a times c, which is negative 3. The bottom term is 2. What 2 terms multiply to give us negative 3 and add to give us 2? Let's start breaking down the 3. That's easy. 3 is prime. The only possible numbers we have are 1 and 3. Can we combine those together to multiply to give us that and add to give us that? Absolutely. If we use negative 1 times positive 3, negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2. We found our 2 terms. Next step is write the equation and split the b term. Y equals 2 times x squared. Notice I recopied our GCF. Don't lose that. We've got 2 terms in the middle. We've got minus 1x plus 3x. And then we copy out our c term. So we split our b term between these 2 terms that came from these 2 numbers. Negative 1x plus 3x is just 2x, so we're good to go. Next step, I want to combine the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms and factor out the common factor. So y equals 2. Let's take a look. I've got a common factor of x here, which leaves me with x minus 1. And for the next 2 terms, I have a common factor of positive 3. I'm going to take the sign of the first term, and that's what I'm going to have here, positive 3, and I'm left with x minus 1. Double parentheses, because I've got parentheses inside of parentheses. Well, good thing. My binomial is the same on both of them. That means I am home free. All I got to do is finish pulling out the x and the positive 3. I can factor those out or pull those out. I've got x plus 3, and then I rewrite my common binomial x minus 1. Factoring is done. Second one. Take a look at this. Do I have a negative value of a? Absolutely. The a is negative. I've got to pull out a negative. Okay, I'm going to just write GCF. I know I have to pull out a negative. Do I have a common factor? No, it's just 1. So what I'm pulling out is a negative 1. Even though there's not a common factor greater than 1, I have to pull out the negative, so I'm going to pull out negative 1. Let's go ahead and rewrite our equation. Y equals negative. And now when you plot a negative 1, every sign flips. So negative x squared becomes positive x squared, negative 2x becomes positive 2x, and positive 8 becomes negative 8. Notice if you go back the other way, it'll turn into negative x squared minus 2x plus 8. So we're good to go. Let's identify our a, b, and c. A is now positive 1. You see that? We don't have a negative anymore in our quadratic in parentheses. B is, and that's what we wanted to do. B is 2, c equals negative 8. Let's go ahead and draw our I so we can find the two values of b. A times c. A times c, 1 times negative 8 is negative 8. The b term goes on the bottom. What two numbers multiply to give us negative 8 and add to give us 2? Let's start looking at our combinations. 1 is always the first one I check, 1 and 8. Well, I can tell you, we need to have one of these terms negative. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. No good. Let's try 2 and 4. 2 times 4 is 8. This works. Negative 2 and positive 4, add those together, you get positive 2, multiply them together, and you get negative 8. We have found our combination. Next step, rewrite our equation and split the b term. Don't forget the negative that's been pulled out of here. Negative x squared. Our b term is now going to be minus 2x plus 4x, and then we still put our negative 8 on the end. Be careful, class. Don't go back to here and get the positive. We're working with this equation right here where we pulled out our GCF. All right? Let's group the first two terms and the last two terms and find the common factors. Y equals negative. I've got a common factor of x. And then I have left over x minus 2. And then 4x and negative 8. I've got a common factor of positive 4. What I'm left with is x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Looking good. I've got the same binomial on both the first part and the last part. Now I can write my final selection. You know what, class? I don't know why I wrote a 1 here. That was supposed to be a negative. Our final equation is negative. We're going to combine the x and the plus 4. X plus 4 and x minus 2. Factoring is done. Number 3. Ask ourselves the question, do we have a negative a value? Yes, we do. So that means we are going to be pulling out a GCF. We know we're going to pull out negative. Do we have a common factor? 3, 6, and 9? Yes, we do. The common factor is 3. So in this case, we're pulling out a negative 3 to simplify our quadratic. Let's rewrite this. Y equals negative 3. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 3, oh sorry, I wrote this wrong by the way. Let's correct this. This should have been negative 6x. Negative 6x. And that's plus 9. Okay, so this is x squared. Negative 3 times positive 2x gives me negative x, or negative 6x, and negative 3 times negative 3 gives me positive 9. So I've factored out the negative 3. Let's identify a, b, and c. A is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, c is equal to negative 3. I'm going to scroll over a little bit here. Alright, let's go ahead and find the value of b the values that we can use to split the b term. A times c. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. B value is 2. What two numbers multiply to give us negative 3 and add to give us 2? Well, again, 3 is prime. We only have two numbers that multiply together to give us negative 3, and that's 1 and 3. Which one is positive and which one is negative? Well, let's try it. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2. So we've got our combination. Next step, let's rewrite our equation and split the b term. Don't forget our GCF. And we've got x squared. That comes from our original equation right here after we pulled the GCF out. X squared minus 1x plus 3x, and then bring down our negative 3. Again, class, make sure you're using this equation where the GCF was pulled out. All right, let's group terms. First two terms are grouped. Last two terms are grouped. We've got y equals negative 3 times, okay, the common factor between x squared and 1x is x. That's going to leave us with x minus 1. Let's try this. Check that. X times x is x squared. That's good. X times negative 1 is negative 1x. That's good. Common terms between the last two terms is positive 3. Remember, you always use the sign that you see in front of this first one, and I should extend this line over to see that sign goes with this. Whoop, that didn't work out too good. That sign goes with that term. We're going to pull out a positive 3. 3 times what gives us 3x? That's x. 3 times what gives us negative 3? That's negative 1. Cool, worked out again. Our binomial that was pulled out is the same, so we can continue on with the last step. Y equals, there's our GCF, negative 3. Remember, we're going to combine this x and this positive 3 together, x plus 3, and then we're going to write our common binomial, which is x minus 1. And now question number 3 is factored. Hopefully you've been able to work through some of these steps on your own and you're successful in finding the right answer. They will get a little more complicated as we go, but it's good to at least be able to understand not only how to do simple factoring, but also how to deal with negative a's and a greatest common factor which needed to be pulled out of the equation.